to MOC membership. A very good morning. Thank you that you are here today, and we will discuss something very important that completely will change how you view this specific material and this topic. First of all, I would like to thank you that you have subscribed to the channel, your thumbs on the top, and you share also the material that you believe it is valuable. Okay. First of all, thank you to all the memberships that has been selected to purchase one of, let's say, the products that is available here on this channel. And also don't forget to join my second channel, which is MOC Talks, where I discuss and I uncover all the difficulties, all the problems, all the issues that the industry are facing and how to create different opportunities from that problems. Because as I have described, the problems are actually the opportunities. Transparently, clear, and with good sense, let's say, of humor, we will start today and we will analyze some things. As has been working for in the majority, let's say, of the companies and huge organizations, in my role, I understand that basically it is not the organization that provides the value to the industry itself. It is the individuals that are consist within the organization that provides their expertise in order the organizations to avoid their risk exposure. And the easier we understand that logic, and the better environments we create, more transparent, more valuable our people, than actually it is at the moment. Because at the moment, yes, we are really undervalued, the people that are working in such organizations, and we create an environment of fear that does not provide any development and any opportunities. In this environment, innovation are suffering and downgrading each and every year. It's happening. But the most important thing that you have to realize that avoiding to work in a different way and style, basically you add up more problems to yourself that you remain in that organization and in that, let's say, specific roles. Okay. It's not the problems for the people that have left, because for sure they are much flexible, they are much more, let's say, able to develop different things. And as you have seen through the last, let's say, months, I have developed many different projects, which is much more valuable and much more efficient from any, let's say, companies that you will find out there. Simply because the level of effectiveness is much higher. Okay, you do not have a manager, you do not have CEO to approve something. You directly do it as required from the industry. Okay, and the industry, what requires its continuous development with such way that it's not overvalued. Okay, that is not overvalued. So one thing that it's really important to mention, excuse me, I have to close the door here. One thing that is overvalued at the moment, it is a continuous investment on systems that actually is not working. Okay, so when I see these things happening, I say, oh my God, what they're doing. They're investing so much funds, so much money for nothingness. Okay, and this pains because when you realize of what they're paying and what they're receiving, it's nothing. Okay, so simply it's drain of funds continuously for companies that actually will be able to make something really meaningful. So today, first of all, we will talk about the tankers stripping itself, how it has been improved, and what is also important for the officers to know how the systems are designed in order to able to strip the piping as much as possible. First of all, yes, for sure, you need to know your valves, you need to know your pipelines, for the reason that you know how to handle the product, okay, and how to strip properly the lines. Because if you are not knowing that information from your, let's say, for example, from your vessel manuals, you are not able, let's say, to read the piping diagrams and all the things, that is a problem, okay? That is a real issue. Because it is exposure, okay? It's exposure. So from the view of officer and the person that you are, let's say, responsible for your role, you have to make sure some of the things which is really vital for your company and your organization, which is basically dealing with the oil transporting. And also seeing the data, because the data, it's a very, very valuable insight. It can share with you a lot of things that what actually happening with one and another vessel. And the more proper attention we are giving, and the attention, let's say, we are not meaning the cosmetic way how the vessel is operating, but actually all our decisions and all our actions of what we are doing, how they affect the system itself and how they affect the operations, that is really where the value are. First of all, we are building vessels, okay? We're building vessels. Some of them are, let's say, under calculated or over calculated. So basically what it means that if you build a vessel for 1 million barrels, maybe it will be, let's say, over 1 million barrels or under 1 million barrels. So all the things we have to know. And we have to know if the vessel is under calibrated or it's over calibrated. The better we understand the system, the better we understand the capacities of the piping, of the pumps, of all the things, the better the vessel are reflecting in the discharge operations. And we know, okay, we have that quantity, but where we have that quantity? We have it in the piping. We have in some of the pipes that we have not properly drained or we have not give the proper attention to that piping. So that's why it's very important. During the stripping process, we know exactly which valves we are opening in order to drain all the lines, all the breaches that are, let's say, in the tanker. Because the design can vary, and also your actions, the actions that you will do, will not actually reflect on the results later on. And you can understand, yes, from a good bad discharge and from the good discharge, and compare also. Yes, okay, I have loaded this quantity, this, let's say, total calculated volume. How much I have discharged, let's say, in the port. Because what it matters when we are making the loss control itself. So we have the vessel loaded in the load port. Okay, this is the quantity it has been loaded. Then the vessel transport the quantity. This is the voyage. Okay, this is the voyage. And we have arrival figures. But before that, before the load port, we have the shore tanks, okay? Shore, where we have an additional comparison, okay? Sure, I forgot. Because I have started to forget things easily. If you are not, let's say, doing things in the role, yes, you have slowly downgraded, let's say, forget things. So we have the shore tanks, and then from the shore tanks we have the delivery to the vessel, okay, at the load port. So you have a comparison here. You can compare things there. And then you have from the load port to arrival figures, you have another comparison here. what is happening with the volumes, okay, where the volumes ended. And the next thing you have also, it is the discharge operation, the arrival figures to discharge on the short tank again. You have another comparison here. So this is basically the life cycle of the crude. You have basically one comparison, second comparison here, the third comparison, and what you can do also, you can do a fourth comparison between these quantities from shore to shore. Okay. So you can see here an entire chain, okay, how the things are working. In between all the things, you have a lot of details that are associated with the tanks, associated with the transfers, with the piping, with the vessels, during the voyage, the transportation, how important is, let's say, the heating logs and all the things that we have previously told about the clean gauge. And today we're talking about the stripping, how much important you need to know your system. All the details, so we have details here, we have details here, we have details here, we have details here in all these factors, but also we have details here in between these factors. Because yes, the vessel transferred the product, but what was the maiden, let's say, temperature or during the transfer? What was the loading temperature that the vessel loaded here? This is also details that are going here. And also, what is the temperature that the vessel discharged on the load port, or on the discharge port? Okay, here we have load port, and here we have the discharge port. So, in between them, we have a lot of different details, a lot of things that are basically affecting the performance. And the comparison, also the overall comparison between these things here. So if we are giving attention to all the details, basically what we're creating a control of the quality through the entire supply chain. And we are able to understand what was the reason of a loss or of a claim, if a claim is viable. But the most important thing is, I have shared with you the list of the crude oils. You have seen then that there are, let's say, hundreds, maybe thousands even. And the most important thing is that the book that I have created, it has a lot of details, and with combination with the membership that I have specifically created, 7 hours of training, with combination with this book and with the material that I have created for crude oil here, which is most of them free. Only the memberships, yes, for crude oil washing masterclass course, it is through the payment in the book itself, which is available from Amazon. You will able to understand the methodology of the product. And since you understand the crude oil, all the rest, all the products will be easier. Similar, it can be applied to, let's say, bioproducts, new products that has been created. It can apply to all different products that you are carrying. Because the most complex product itself, it is the crude oil. It has thousands of components on it, which is how they react and how they are behave. It depends of how you have understand the entire supply chain during the transfer, during the loading, during the discharge, and how all these details with the combination with the product are working together in order to provide as much as possible reliability. So one thing that we often forget, and we are just, let's say, keeping it simple as much as possible, but it's not simple. We need to give a lot of attention. It is on the vessel experience factor, which is called VEF. Okay, VEF. The VEF, the way, because there is methodology how to create and build the VF, you need to follow certain regulations and laws, okay, in order to create the VF. First of all, you have to really be careful that you will not use the first voyage after the dry dock. The first voyage after dry dock is being excluded, okay? We are not using that in the VF. And the reason why it is happening this behind, for the reason that the vessel, it is clean completely, okay? So you do not have fill any pipes, you do not have fill any pumps. Maybe you'll have, okay, some small amounts, but mostly it is completely drained and dry. Also the tanks has been cleaned. So basically there is not adhesion on the surfaces, which actually can take a significant amount of the product. It can be, let's say, 100 cubes, it can be 150 cubes. And if you take in account that voyage, this will disturb your VF calculation. So you have to be constant, and moreover, for sure, I will advise the necessity to separate the voyages, similar voyages, different voyages. So the voyages to be similar for the comparison, okay? Build your list, build as much as possible, let's say, vessels are there, but I will propose that the industry to change in the way that, okay, you have lightering, you have, let's say, voyages which is solely, let's say, single voyage, because also lightering operations should not be used when calculating, okay? The second thing is lightering. Lightering operations, okay? Should not be used in the VF. But what actually happens here, because you are not using this information from the lightering operations, you do not have any information. And as I understand that by not having any information, it is worse than having some information. So let's say if the vessel is operating in the trade, which is constantly are making, let's say, lightering operations, it is better to build some of the VF if the operations are similar, and make a separate section where this will be kept as a record for the vessel, okay, for the calculations. Because since you have a steady VF and you are doing, let's say, the lightering operations, and then you are using the VF, the standard VF, to compare what is happening in this lightering operation, there you will have a really big problem. Because when these lightering operations are happening, there can be, let's say, 3 or 4 vessels loading the mother vessel, okay? The sister vessels loading the mother vessel, so they will probably use the VF of that smaller vessels for the calculation of what has been loaded to the vessel itself. So the VF itself, it says one part of the story, but it does not says all of the part of the story. So that's why it is just a way of comparison for specific voyages, and most probably it is much more effective for single voyage, not for lightering, to take it in account. Another thing is that it should not be used also voyages where the bill of lading has been based on shipboard measurements. Okay, we are not using where bill of lading okay, has been based on ship measurements. Because solely ship measurements can have deviations as well. Okay, that's why you have to compare the shore measurements. And also in that case, yes, it depends of how well calibrated are the shore tanks. So it is all the chain that we have drawn there and all the details that we have described there. Another thing also that we need to take in account that we will not use in DVF calculations any kind of, let's say, any structural modifications. We're not using any structural modifications that have been done to the vessel, let's say cargo space or cargo tanks, because this also will show a completely different VF. And there is for sure standards, yes, there is for sure standards which describe, okay, how much voyages you need to have, let's say at least 10 voyages, at least 30 voyages. It depends, yes, what the regulations are saying. Okay, you follow the things. Also, the numbers, how many dots, the accuracy of that calculation. I don't remember all the things which is related with VF, but the very important thing is to say that most of the VF that we have at the moment, it is VF loading. VF loading. Okay, so it is, excuse me, it is called yes, correct, yes, VF loading. So the F loading is the adjusted mean value of VLR obtained after several voyages. Okay, and basically VLR is the vessel loading ratio. So it is the ratio of the quantity TCV of the oil measured on board the vessel immediately after loading. Okay.
Okay, I found this on the web for a VLR.
After loading.
Check it out.
And minus the OBQ. Okay, this is the VLR. And what we need, what I believe also, we need vessel experience factor for the discharge, which is VDR, vessel discharge ratio, which is the TCV quantity, the measured quantity aboard the vessel immediately before the discharge, minus the ROB. Okay, the quantity of TCV measuring by the receiving terminal. Okay, comparing it to the TCV. Yes, to the quantity of TCV received from the terminal. So these things, yes, are very, very important. Excuse me. Oh. These things are very, very important because if we have in our case, let me draw here, and we use only the VF of loading. So basically we have another image. We have a completely another image here, which cannot be used, this VF, for the discharge. Because when you're discharging, you are already on another terminal, you have any other equipment there, you have different tanks, you have different kind of operation, so you're not able to compare that things. That's why it's very, very important that when we have a discharge operation or we do things, we try to compare similar things. Because if we do not able to compare similar things, this is where the discrepancy and the difference can arise. So always we need to compare similar things. And another thing that also you need to take in account, which is very, very important thing, that in order the VF to be applicable, the VF of loading of the VF of discharge, you have to make sure that the capacity of the tanks filled, because you have the vessel, let's say for example, which is filled 50% of the capacity of the crude, okay, you are not able to use the VF because it will not be representative. You have to be above 80% in order to take in account the VF, because the vessel structure, it is not a tank, okay, which is calibrated, let's say, to the point exactly and all the things. The vessel, which is also linear as well, the tank here, okay, it is steady, calibrated most of the time, not sure, sometimes it's not. So you do not have any inclination, you do not have any changes, let's say on the trim or on the list. Here we have changes, yes, to the trim, and also you have changes as well to the list of the vessel, so you can have another angles and all the things, okay. You have also different compartments, you have also different designs internally, structures and all the things. So this is a thing that you need to take in account, that does not apply blindly the VF, and most of the time it is VF of loading and not the VF of the discharge. So in order to increase your value of your vessel and to have a much more transparent approach, it is better to keep also the VF of discharge. So you compare the figures that you have discharged as a vessel with the figures that the terminal has been received. And then you keep it in track. Maybe you will come later in that terminal and you will say, I have discharged, let's say, this CPC crude, or I have discharged, let's say, Bonga crude, for example, or I have discharged, let's say, WTI crude there, or maybe I have discharged, let's say, Maya crude, or maybe I have discharged, let's say, I don't know, Johan crude, okay, or Solan crude. But then you will have something to compare, okay? That I have discharged from a vessel, let's say 1 million barrels here, okay, and you have received in your terminal 999 point, let's say 887. Everything is fine, okay? And I have discharged, let's say, this crude here, 1 million barrels, and you get 900, let's say, 90 50, okay? So something is wrong there, okay? And we have to look for what kind of operations we have here. Maybe we have a lot of loadings, maybe we have a lot of VF, how the things are calculated, basis on what? Basis on shore calculations, basis of VF of, let's say, of the sister vessels or mother vessels, which VF has been used during the loading. So this is why it's so much important, and this is why still I believe the industry is understaffed, because we cannot have a proper view of what is happening in all that locations, because the locations are huge, the people are understaffed, and there is no investment from the companies to have a clear image and picture of what is going there. And basically, there is raising claims. Claims departments also are not that understanding, let's say, all that things, the meaning of them as well, because they do not have any kind of technical understanding. So you have to explain to them, okay, this is it, this is the reason, this is why, and you always explain these things, how they're working. And that's why, yes, that's why investing, let's say, in the education, it's very, very important thing, because through the education, people better can realize things and take proper decisions. If the knowledge is there, the money just flow by, and you are spending, and you have basically less margin for the refinery. So you're purchasing the crude, you have the losses, you are not understanding where the losses are, the losses increasing. It can be, let's say, losses, operational losses, operations which increase the time, and then the time means demurrage, increase, less flexibility, which again increases the time and the demurrage. So, and also it can be, let's say, losses on the product itself, okay? So basically you receive less of what you have purchased. And then the margins of the refinery are going down to the lowest point. That is very easily to happen. That is very, very easily to happen because you are losing your expertise. And since this is happening, you have less investments. The investments are going to be less. The investments means as well for the assets, also for people, expertise. And then what the next step is going, you have to hire what is in the market available in the market without even guarantee you that you're able to increase, let's say, higher margins, because simply you have the risk, okay, the risk of, it can be, let's say, the risk of not liking, let's say, the job, the risk of retention. So again, yes, you're paying, let's say, HRs, you're looking, you're spending time, and as you're spending time, there is nothing, let's say, happen in between. So there is no development, no any, let's say, business development, just supporting business as usual, let's say, giving them some minor solutions, but not expertise. Because all that here, they require expertise. And it starts from here, from people with expertise, which are understanding the assets, how they operate and what is the need of the assets, and where the proper investments should be done in order to avoid the next step, to avoid going always in the market and try to find what is available, maybe internally, maybe in the market, but you still have a huge risk, okay? Huge risk of retention, of acceptance, of the new organizations, of the new environments, of the working system. And now we have seen that most of, let's say, sophisticated systems that has been implemented, it's the flexibility of working from any location by providing your expertise. Because when you're expert in, let's say, your role and your position, you does not require any managing, okay, directors. So basically, the directors are not required, simply. They're not required because you are the director, you are the expert in the industry, expertise, and you are also the developer, the business developer of your field. Because if you have to report every time here, it is so much time consuming. It's a lot of time consuming and it's a lot of disturbances. And also there can be conflict of interest as well. So by having just a person which is specifically allocated, he take the responsibility here of their field. So take the responsibility, he take also the accountability and develop further the field basis on these two first, let's say, examples by directing expertise. So you don't have to over reporting to different directors which probably are not able even to understand of what you're doing in the organization. And the last one, development, let's say the field, it can be new business development, new propositions, we can call it transformation, okay? We can put it like this, RAT, okay? We can call it transformation because it is really is, because since you are knowing the direction of your field, of where it should be and where it is the projections, basis of your expertise that you're building through the time, because you're an expert, and I believe any one of you are able to be an expert with any field. There is no such, let's say, limitations that you are not able to build. But since you understand and since you get your foot in improvement, you'll be able to lift your expertise. And then see what the field is required. What is required in order to cover any gaps that has been created through the years. Because as you can see, not all of the people that actually are working in this methodology, okay? Not every people are able to understand this simple thing, okay, which is can done in the 3 easy descriptions. And everything it is related, yes, with the structure, with the understanding of the things, how the things are working. It is with the experience and the logic behind the things, how the things are working. So the material is there, my dear friends. The question is if you are willing to step up a little bit from your comfort zone in order to learn something additional, to learn something that will lift your understanding of how the things are working. And since you get that, since you get used to that way of thinking, then you will see that there is no limits, and the only limits are the one that you set for you. That is it, my dear friends. Thank you again for all the members here on the channel. Thank you for joining today for this incredible video, and for sure I will think something interesting to share with you in the future. See you in the next video from Mihail and MLC membership, MLC Talks. Go for the MLC Talks. That will be really interesting and a little bit cheaping for, let's say, the owners, okay, because they have to wake up. They have to wake up for the reason because the expertise is there, it is available, but they're not seeing it. And most of the things of how they're saying them, and I believe for sure it is not that there is not the expertise there, it is the thing that they are not seeing this expertise and they're not evaluated properly. Since you are not able to see the things as it there, it does not mean that these things are not there. It means that you have not searching properly, and also you have not understand properly how and where to find that expertise as required. So here is the channel, it is available, it is open for any conversation, transparently, clear, without fear or hiding from anything, okay? Because fear does not bring anything good, and also it does not create opportunities. The reason why I made all this material, it is to create a different approach, a completely different approach of how the things can work and the reason why the things are working. That I explain them in the details with a clear view, with a clear strategy, with a clear overview of that and where it should be directed. Thank you very much from Mihail and MLC. Have a great day. Bye bye.